It's often hard to stay focused because at times I certainly feel like Stephanie, I need to make these things happen. But as I continue to grow, I've learned to, again, trust and rely on my team more so that I have the space to think about and focus on long-term goals. And I can bring more to the team very clearly and transparently and make the best decisions.
Welcome to the Lead Boldly podcast, where strategy meets action and leaders go from dreaming to doing. If you're a purpose-driven change maker ready to turn stalled plans into sustainable results, this show is your blueprint. Hosted by strategist and executive coach Deondra Wardelle, owner of On to the Next One Consulting. Each episode showcases bold leaders who bring strategy to life through people development, policy development, and continuous improvement. Tune in and gain the clarity, courage, and the tools you need to turn big ideas into real impact and make strategy a daily practice for your team.
I am over the moon excited for you to meet and learn more about today's guest, Stephanie Quick. Stephanie Quick is the president at Intend Indiana. Intend Indiana is a not-for-profit that really hones in and focuses on advancing community development. What they're known for, their tagline, their motto is connecting people to opportunity. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Stephanie Quick. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, Deondra. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. It is such a joy for you to be on the Lead Boldly podcast. So, like I said in my intro, I am so excited to have you on for people to learn more about you. And I share that you are the president of Intend Indiana. But I want to go back to the beginning of your leadership journey before we talk more about what it is that you currently do. Mm-hmm. Share an early experience that shapes how you lead today.
Absolutely. I'll start with what I like to call my introduction to the public sector in my career. So I started this position. It was not in a leadership or supervisory role. It was what I felt at the time was not really a relevant position in the department. However, as I began to lean into the position, I can recall my immediate supervisor just basically prompting me to do more, to engage more. I would often go to him with just various questions about the process, the timeline, whatever the things were, and they were all just questions. And one day he basically stopped me and said, "Okay, yeah, so that's a problem. So now what?" So that part right there, very, very early in my career, just gave me that encouragement to just not only ask questions, but to come with also solutions to those questions, and just knowing that folks wanted to hear about what those solutions might be. Then just to fast forward just a little bit, in that same with that same organization. I developed what I call a mentor. She doesn't know to this day that I called her my mentor, but that's what she turned out to be for me. She basically took me by the hand, and again, I still felt that the position I was in was not relevant, or was not high up there. That the work that I was doing was just mediocre work or what have you. But she really let me know that the work that I was doing, no matter how I compared it to something else in the department, it was really important to the work of that particular department. She made me feel as if my opinions mattered. When I would go to her with various suggestions, she would take those and put those into action. She would direct folks to me for this particular area of work that I was involved in. She would direct folks to me as the expert in regards to that particular subject matter. So that's basically how my leadership journey began and what sort of shaped me into how I work in this role now. Just that really like set the pace for me in regards to how I wanted to be treated and how I wanted folks around me to be treated.
Mhm. When you talk about those two memory scenarios with those leaders, something that I find that's interesting that really stands out in terms of how leaders can invest in future leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Your first supervisor was fine with you asking questions. And then for your second manager or a second supervisor, regardless of how you saw the role, she saw the value that the role brings and that you brought to the role and helped you to
Exactly.
see that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so wonderful when leaders can hold up that mirror and also give you those nudges to push you and encourage you to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So as you think about those early lessons and what it is that meant to developing your foundation in leadership, how do you use those experiences that those mentors that you had to guide how you lead teams in terms of navigating strategy and making decisions at Intend?
Yeah. Um, that definitely guided the way that I lead teams. As I mentioned, I always want folks on my team to understand the value of inclusion. So the value of them providing information, the value of receiving information from others. Again, no matter what role others on the team may be in, their input, their lived experience, the impacts on their individual communities are all important and an important part to the work that we do. Those early lessons or experiences, I guess, that I went through, it definitely gave me the mindset to know that it was okay to ask questions. It was okay to make mistakes. It's okay for me now in a leadership position to not have all the answers. And it's definitely okay to share my vision with the team and trust that they can take that and move forward with it and accomplish whatever the goal or the objective is. Again, because that's what was instilled in me early in my career, and I knew how that made me feel. I knew how that made me feel empowered to then go on, definitely learn more about the subject and be confident in regards to sharing information and suggesting direction to my superiors at that time.
So in your last response, you just said something that warrants a shaking of the egg. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. So, as the president, it's okay for you to not have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And that showing that level of humility also really helps to advance and cultivate a learning culture where people know it's okay to say, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
together we'll go and find out.
Exactly.
And so I want to talk more about your role at Intend.
Mm-hmm.
What drew you to Intend Indiana, and what continues to inspire you in the work you do today?
So when I first joined the organization, I actually joined as the director of real estate development. So that entailed all things related to housing development, land bank oversight, and all things basically real estate related. So what drew me to the organization was that at that time we were doing a lot of work where we were providing access to affordable home ownership in high opportunity areas. So that means access to employment, access to services, healthcare, fresh groceries, jobs, providing folks with opportunities to live in a neighborhood that was a neighborhood that they could choose from the list of options, and there was growth and prosperity happening in these neighborhoods. This really allowed for those who had been systemically left out of opportunities to just have access to those opportunities. That's always been important to me. As I've lived that, I've seen members of my community, my family, my friends be exposed to that lack of access. So what keeps me inspired is that, again, I started as the real estate development director, but as I grew with the organization, what keeps me inspired is not only the affordable home ownership opportunities, but at each and every level in each and every initiative of Intend, again, it resonates with me, with my community, with my experiences, and again, things that I've witnessed and my community has witnessed. So everything from vacant and abandoned property, substandard housing, living in those situations and knowing what it's like to be there and not fully understanding what the options are or how to address it or how to engage my community to make changes. Safe, affordable mortgage lending is another. Being a victim of predatory lending and being able to now be in a position to share those avenues to where folks can know that yes, if this has happened to you, it's not okay. But there are options. There are now options where you can get out of these situations. So again, these are things that myself, my community may not have known as I was growing up, coming up, being a homeowner or what have you. And it was important to me to just continue to be in a role where I can have an impact on things such as that and be able to share and provide folks with solutions on how to make things better for their families and their communities. Same thing with small business, just the lack of access to capital. I never knew how many members of my family, my community were small business owners until the conversations just started happening and the frustration with either not being able to access capital or not understanding how to access capital, being denied for traditional lending, and again, just not understanding why. So again, being in that position to really educate the community on how to move forward and also providing those direct resources for anything from housing to mortgage lending to capital for small business. That's what keeps me inspired is that it's truly the work that we do is truly making a difference in the community.
That's one of the things that stands out, has always stood out about you and how you lead in any interaction we've had ever since the first time we met. Everything that you do is connected with Intend Indiana's mission of connecting people to opportunity. And in all the ways you just described, what it is that brought you to Intend and what keeps you excited, I kept hearing over and over and over, connecting people to opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that stood out. I think about during our work together in the past year as we were collaborating and partnering to develop Intend Indiana's 5-year vision and strategic plan. What really stood out at the beginning when I was working with you and Stephen, the CEO, the significant focus on a people-centered strategy, building upon the great foundation that you all already have and connecting people to opportunity, but taking it to the next level of really focusing on a people-centered strategy. Why was it important to ensure that, among Intend, the leadership, staff, the board, the community, that those voices were heard and their perspective and insight were taken into consideration throughout the strategic planning process?
Yeah, I'll start with staff. It was important to ensure that staff's voice was heard for that, so that they could have ownership of the strategic plan and that they could have buy-in to the plan. We always tell staff that, again, we want to hear from you. We want your input, and to have them engaged and really have a voice in regards to the direction of the strategic plan. It gives them just that sense of ownership. They know the plan from the beginning. They're giving input from the beginning. And then as the work continues, they believe in that plan. They have buy-in with that plan. Also, it gives staff just that decision making ability, and it reinforces the fact that we are constantly saying, own this, own your initiative, own the work that you do. I trust you to make decisions in regards to the work that you're doing. Then it also, as we were going through the process, it definitely heightened the amount of innovation and creativity that our team has, and it just brings those diverse perspectives from staff, to be more innovative, to be more creative, as we were thinking about what the next 5 years related to the strategic plan would look like. So that's the importance of having the staff voice. And then as far as the board, again, just really giving them that opportunity to be more engaged and committed to the work that we're doing. Our board is very engaged already, but so that they fully understand each of our initiatives and can provide their influence and their knowledge and their stewardship, basically, in regards to the work that we do, so that they too can then go out and advocate for and tend in our various initiatives.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to finish with just the community insight. By engaging with the community, it really allowed us to understand the community needs. We work across the state. We're a statewide nonprofit, and we never want to partner with any community without understanding their needs. We don't want to go into a community and have the feeling that we're doing this to the community. We always want to have an understanding of what those needs are. So by engaging and hearing from communities as we were thinking about our strategic planning process, it allowed us to do just that and make plans related to the things that we were hearing. And then it also added just that additional level of trust from the communities, so they will know that we're listening to them as we're making plans, and then they can see that the things that were discussed, the things that were brought up, they are directly in the plans that we've created.
The theme, another theme that really stood out for me, I've already talked about connecting people to opportunity, is just how Intend and all the elements of Intend, staff, the board, partners, really embraces continuous improvement, especially around demonstrating respect for people and that inclusivity and hearing from diverse voices. And that really helped to make the process just so enjoyable. I remember oftentimes people ask, should we be having this much fun doing a strategic plan? Absolutely,
Yes.
because people were giving an opportunity to share from their perspective, because everyone was invested in having a plan that will work, and not just a plan on paper, but something that everyone could follow in whatever capacity in which they serve, whether as a staff member, as a board member, as a community partner, what have you.
I completely agree. And I think I mentioned before, Deondra, the process that we went through as you were assisting us in facilitating our strategic planning process. I've never gone through a strategic planning process quite like that, quite in that way. And our team, for the majority of them, this was their very first time being involved in a strategic planning process. So it was very enlightening to see just how engaged they were. And a lot of that definitely has to do with the way that you facilitated those meetings, and was able to explain things and explain the processes in a way that resonates with the team, so that they felt just that much more comfortable in regards to engaging and helping us to move that forward.
Well, just like you said, no one wants to feel like anything is being done to them.
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
want to have ownership. They want to know that they belong. They want to know that their voice, their ideas will be heard. And it was so important that that was the feel and the tone throughout this process, because that mirrors the atmosphere at Intend. It's very much an atmosphere where our people are encouraged to be the absolute best they can be, that they can thrive and be successful. It's very much a coaching environment at an Intend. That's been my observation.
Mm-hmm.
And in your role as a leader, I often see what you do as you putting on you're in that coach role.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to coaching and developing staff, how do you see why that's so important to take on more of that coaching style in terms of how you lead?
Yeah. I think that style of leadership is important, because it helps to empower staff, gives them that ability to like achieve their professional and personal aspirations, as opposed to being a leader that is more so of a dictator, or just providing directions. Do this, and bring it back to me. Unlocking that for the team, so that I'm able to coach them and guide them in regards to how to find a solution without directly giving the solution. I totally agree that as I think about the way that I engage with staff, that it's definitely a more coaching leadership style.
And so when helping them to find the solution,
Mm-hmm.
versus giving the answers,
Mm-hmm.
with that coaching mindset, how has that helped to shape when implementing strategy? It's one thing to have the strategic plan, it's another thing to execute it. And then not only that, when the external forces, things that are outside of your control, can happen and cause conditions to shift. And those conditions may be caused by policy, funding, market changes, all the different things that you see being involved in the public sector. So, how is it that you use coaching to really guide the team on helping them to find solutions for these shifts and sudden changes, or dealing with the unexpected?
Yeah, I think that it really helps the team to like be adaptable and resilient. It helps them with like a growth mindset, as opposed to like looking at these challenges that we often face, these changing external conditions that we often face, as opposed to looking at those as challenges, looking at those as opportunities to learn from that and adapt, rather than considering it as a setback. Again, as I mentioned, I feel that it also helps the team to just take ownership, of the work that they do, to find those solutions, to make shifts when needed. I think it helps to motivate them. It also helps with that continuous learning and continuous improvement aspect, as we adjust and evolve and respond to external factors, external issues. We are continuously making improvements, and with a lot of that coming from our team, who are boots on the ground and seeing how various external conditions are impacting the work that we do. I would also say it gives us that opportunity to really communicate and collaborate more. We have 4 initiatives at Intend: affordable housing or housing development, mortgage lending, small business lending, helping communities deal with vacant and abandoned properties through Renew Land Bank. And as we go through these challenges, it opens up that opportunity to collaborate internally to get to an end result. So that often happens with us within this line of work that we're doing and within Intend Indiana in general. So again, it helps us to think more strategically and make decisions in a different way.
So one thing that we must acknowledge and mention and shout out, have to. So, oftentimes I refer to Intend as the award-winning Intend Indiana because there are so many members of staff, including yourself, who have won awards. And even Intend was recognized this year as one of the best places to work in Indiana. You all were ranked number 5. Mm-hmm. That warrants a shaking of the egg. And so you all are a small team, but you're doing so much. You just talked about the 4 initiatives and all the impact that's being made. And, with the directors and supervisors that lead an initiative, there's oftentimes quite a bit of overlap across initiatives and across departments. So, what steps are you taking to develop the supervisor's capacity to own and execute the plan across all these different initiatives and departments?
Yeah, some of the steps that I've taken include really communicating the strategic plan and our 5-year vision, and clearly communicating the why. So going beyond simply reciting what the plan is, but explaining the rationale and the benefit to the organization, to our clients, to our stakeholders, and then communicating how the overall strategies translate into measurable goals or objectives. So that the team can see. Again, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. In my early career situation where I felt that my role was not significant or relevant, but explaining the strategic vision and goals to the team so that they understand, again, no matter what your role is, no matter if you're the president or someone else, someone who's just walking into the door, such as a Trent L. Garrett Fellowship participant, this is how the work that you do feeds into our strategic plan and our 5-year vision. And just repeatedly sharing that, repeatedly giving examples of how we, different ways that we can collaborate internally and externally to meet those goals. Communicating that internally, communicating that through our key performance indicators, and our KPIs, our dashboards, and even just informally, just really, really trying to hone in with staff that just in casual conversations, how they can walk away with it like an aha moment, just those informal conversations, just to share like how that whatever something may have been that they've done, how that's impacting the work that we do and getting us closer to our goals. I would also say really empowering the supervisors, delegating that authority to them, trusting them again to make decisions within their initiatives, trusting them to collaborate both internally and externally, and then really providing them with the resources that they might need in order to make that happen. I don't micromanage. I let the supervisors find those innovative solutions on how to best accomplish the goals that are set within the strategic plans. I also would say that, which I mentioned this a little earlier, but really, really encouraging that cross-functional collaboration, getting them to think about shared goals and how to understand those, because the work that we do, as I mentioned, it basically integrates or overlaps with one another, so that we can make larger impacts in the communities that we work in. Again, often starting with addressing vacant and abandoned properties, then delving into helping communities think differently about affordable home ownership or housing development, and then with the lending, just topping everything off. So really, really giving the team that space to collaborate and think differently to get to the end result.
I heard 3 C words in your response that that I want the people who are listening to really hang on to. The communication, very clear in terms of the why, what the vision, what the expectation, what the long term is. Communication among one another as the different initiatives, departments are working together, members of staff are working together. That communication and then that collaboration, that it really is a team sport. And that, we talk about that often as the entire staff is being introduced or has been introduced to the continuous improvement frameworks. But not only that, what really stands out, and I think this is the biggest C, is confidence. It's one thing to say, well, I'm going to delegate, but you give something to a person, you're like, oh, let me take that back. No, you
Right.
give it with confidence and you have that trust. And it's that learning environment that, again, if you don't know, we can figure it out, but you encourage them to use innovation and creativity. That's a 4th C.
Mm-hmm.
So, that communication, collaboration, confidence, and creativity. Stephanie, we've talked about, we talked quite a bit about how it is that you lead as it relates to coaching, supporting others, creating those opportunities within the community for people to thrive. I want to take it back to you, like we did at the beginning when we were talking about the beginning of the start of your leadership journey. I follow you. I see, all the things that you're doing, not only at Intend, but you also serve on boards. You make sure you stay up on everything that's related to community development. You have a very heavy schedule, very busy workload. And I'd like to learn or hear from you, how do you stay focused on long-term goals while simultaneously managing the everyday workload and tasks that especially come with leading a non-for-profit?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Deondra. That's a really good question. And I'm going to be very, very honest and transparent. It's often hard to stay focused because at times I certainly feel like Stephanie, I need to make these things happen. But as I continue to grow, and growth is something that I've learned never stops occurring, I've learned to, again, trust and rely on my team more so that I have the space to think about and focus on long-term goals, and I can bring more to the team very clearly and transparently and make the best decisions, because I'm able to hand them things that I may have had on my plate that's not allowing me to think about long-term goals. So again, as I continue to grow, it helps me to stay focused by delegating so that I can free my mind, not have to worry about some of the things that my team can clearly handle.
I won't sing, but as in Vogue says, free your mind and the rest will follow.
Yes.
I don't want people to log off, so I don't want to sing. But and Stephanie, although the question was directed more about you, you still brought staff in and talked about sharing that responsibility because that helps to grow them.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership is a continuous journey. As you're learning more, you're developing yourself, and you're developing and helping to grow those you are supporting, leading, and even in the community, those who you are inspiring. So we will now transition to the segment. For now, I'm calling it rapid fire. As this whole continuous improvement mindset, I may change it to something else, but during rapid fire, this is something, 3 quick questions that you can respond to, just what comes top of mind that will serve as a takeaway for leaders. First and foremost, dun, 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 dun. Yes, I do my own sound effects. What does lead boldly mean to you?
Yeah. Lead boldly means to me, it means having, I think I'm going to throw some more C words out there, Deondra, really having the courage and the confidence to challenge the status quo and to make positive impacts. And it means actively working to bring others alongside in the journey in achieving the vision.
I must pause to shake the head. I love that. I love that so much. Second, share a favorite quote, a leadership resource, or habit you recommend to our audience.
Yes. My favorite leadership resource would have to be the book Lead Like Jesus. That's a book that's by Ken Blanchard and Phil Hodges. And this book emphasizes servant leadership as the core principle for leadership endeavors. So this means focusing on serving others and their needs rather than seeking to be served or prioritizing your own self-interest.
Okay, we will share that information in the show notes so that people can check out the book. You said it's Lead Like Jesus.
Lead Like Jesus. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the last question, what's the best way for those who are tuning in to reach you and follow the life-changing work that you're doing?
The best way to follow the work that's happening at Intend Indiana is to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as LinkedIn at Intend Indiana.
Okay. And we'll also share those links in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, I so appreciate you joining us. And, as much as I know about you, I'm walking away even more inspired by your leadership journey. And I'm confident those who are tuning in feel the same way. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in to today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our Lead Boldly podcast and register for our upcoming webinars, our leadership and development webinars. Until then, remember to embrace your royal calling to lead boldly, build strategically, and impact endlessly.
Thanks for listening to the Lead Boldly podcast with Deondra Wardelle. If today's episode helped you take one step closer from dreaming to doing, be sure to follow the show and subscribe on YouTube. You can also learn more at DeondraWardelle.com. And if you know a leader ready to bring strategy to life through continuous improvement and bold action, share this episode with them. Until the next time, let's continue to lead boldly, build strategically, and impact endlessly.
Keep on moving on.